What's good, family? What's good, family? NBA playoffs have started. I'm sorry, I should have given you out this video a couple of days ago, but I've been busy. I want to give you my picks for the first round of the NBA playoffs. I'm gonna give you my picks. I'm gonna start with the Eastern Conference, then I'm going to go with Western Conference. Now, let's start off with the matchup: Philly versus the 8, the Washington Wizards. Philly in 5. It's not a whole lot to talk about there. I think Washington's going to make the games interesting because Russell Westbrook is not going to go down without a fight. But ultimately, they're going to lose. It's just going to look nice. It's just going to look nice, but they're going to lose. Maybe a sweep because of Westbrook and Bradley Beal. I'm going to give them a game. But it's just going to look nice, but they're going to lose royally. And that's that series. Now, second series, we got Brooklyn and Boston. Brooklyn in this series, they're going to have their moments. I mean, Boston, you have Jason Tatum. Jason Tatum's that dude. But in Boston, you know, Kemba can go off if he wants to. I just look at the position that Boston was in a few years ago, having all this great young talent and all these extra draft picks, and what have they done with it? Like, I mean, after you robbed the Sixers, getting Jason Tatum, after that, the picks you've made since is kind of, I look at Boston should be in the position that Brooklyn was in. But I digress. I mean, Boston's going to have their moments because Brooklyn plays defense when they feel like it. And the fact that their big three has barely played with each other. They understand how to play with each other, but there's certain in-game situations that they're just going to have to. This first round is going to be them working out the kinks. Let's just call it what it is. My fear with Brooklyn, not just in this series, but the entire playoffs, because if this team stays healthy, they should win the championship. There's nothing to talk about. There's nothing to talk about. Yes, I understand. Even the Lakers with a healthy Anthony Davis, with Drummond, I don't give a shit. Brooklyn's going to beat them. My only concern about Brooklyn, I mentioned this to you like a month ago in a previous video. My concern about Brooklyn is health. Their big three all have very serious health issues. Kyrie is tender, he's injury prone. James Harden normally is an Iron Man. He missed a lot of time this year too. Whether it was an ankle, hamstring, I don't really remember. Y'all can remind me. So he's just now coming off of that. And then you got KD. Yeah, we all know he's frail, light in the ass, but he didn't even play half the season. That's coming off of Achilles. Coming off the Achilles. Now, when he's been on the court, he's looked just like KD. I mean, 7 feet tall, yo-yo handle, pull up from 30 whenever you feel like it. Like, I mean, I want to see what's going to happen when they play against someone who's able to ugly the game up a little bit. When they go against someone who's able to ugly it up, maybe that's Philly. Let's see what happens, because you already know they got nothing for Embiid. Let's see what happens. I think Philly possibly could ugly the game up a little bit. But as far as this first round series, they're sweeping Boston. Nothing to talk about. Boston's getting swept. God bless you. Good night. Go home. They'll be fishing in a little bit. The next series after that. What's the next series after that? What's the next series after that? This is going to be a great series. Milwaukee and Miami. I think this series is going 7. The difference between this year's series and last year's series, let me break this down to you. You hear a lot of people talk about, they have Drew Holiday and all of that. And that's true. But what I see, the difference between this year's series, and I'm going to say Milwaukee in 7, Milwaukee has more guys who are willing to fight. They have more guys who, one of the best compliments you could ever have in sports, you hear this a lot in basketball, you hear it in football, you hear it in boxing, is someone being a dog. Being a dog. Now I don't mean like a horny dog humping everybody in about a leg. Like it's saying, like, you're scared, get a dog. If you ain't scared, that means you are a dog. You know what I'm saying? And when you play against Miami, a Pat Riley-led franchise, that's his whole team. They got a whole bench whole roster full of dogs. That's why Jimmy Butler fits there perfectly. Perfectly. He just fits there. This is why him in Minnesota didn't work out, because he's a dog and he's around, like, okay, he's looking at the two young stars, and he's looking at them like, oh, y'all niggas sweeter than dear me. Nah, this shit ain't gonna work. This shit ain't gonna work. And the one time they went to the playoffs is when he was on the roster. So that shit didn't work out for him. But when I looked at the team last year, I watched that series last year. Yes, teams do certain things to wall off Giannis, but Giannis still was able to get off and get his points or whatever. I watched it. But they didn't have enough dogs on that team to respond. So when Miami made a play, respond. And you see it instantly. You saw it already in game one. Drew Holiday gets the block on Jimmy Butler. And you see certain things change. You see Giannis, former Defensive Player of the Year. Guess what? He was going out there and he was guarding Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler responded. He got past him and scored and pushed it to overtime. Like, it's good. There's going to be more of that back and forth. It's going to be more of that. Because Miami's not going to back down. Miami's not the most skillful team. They got a bunch of shooters, but there's no superstar on that team. The most skillful player on that team, if I'm really going to go there, ain't Jimmy Butler. It's Bam Adebayo. Salute to him and what he's turned himself into. Because coming out of Kentucky, I didn't see this shit. I thought he was just another Dwight Howard wannabe. Okay, catch lobs, block a shot two here and there. Can't do shit when he get the ball. That is not the case now. You look at his game now, that is not the case. Great position defender. He can protect the rim. Of course, the athleticism, he can do those things, rim runs, but score in such a variety of ways. And he defends Giannis so well. Because he's of the same size, pretty much. Same level of athleticism and strength and all of that. Giannis at least has you in strength, or have you in athleticism, or have you in speed, or have you in length, or something. He'll have you something. And somehow, some way, Bam is almost a mirror image of him. That's why he guards him so well. That's why. But this, when I look at Milwaukee, they have more dogs and more guys who are going to be willing to fight. When I say fight, not, this is basketball, not putting up your hands and punching people. I mean fight as in respond. You know what I'm saying? They're not just going to take everything lying down. They're going to respond. And in doing that, I see Milwaukee winning this series, a great series, and then winning it in 7 games. Now, the last of the Eastern Conference, we have the Hawks against my beloved Knicks. I sat and watched that game, and I watched Trae Young break my people's hearts. Now, as a New Yorker, it is hard for me to go against my Knicks. It is hard. It is really hard. But if I'm going to sit here and be objective, Atlanta's a better team. Atlanta is a better team, and I don't think the Knicks have, because they don't have they're a team without a superstar, and they rely on group effort. They so rely on group effort. I think it actually would have been to their favor if they didn't have home court advantage. I think, that's what I truly believe, because they don't have that one guy that you could just ride. Julius Randle, you already seen game one, he's not that guy. He's not a superstar. He's not. Now, they should have Michael Porter Jr. on that team instead of Kevin Knox, but I'm not going to talk about that right now. But he's not that superstar. One day, why do you think the former MVP, Derrick Rose, gets thrusted into that position? Because he's the only one who he's not a superstar anymore, but he knows what it is to be one. And just Atlanta, they can score so many variety of ways. They got so much firepower. And even with the Knicks, it was such a great defensive team. At the end of the day, I say Atlanta wins that series in 6. Knicks have had a great season. Great season. Salute to my guys. It looks like my Knicks are finally moving in the right direction. Finally, I'm moving in the right direction. That is the Eastern Conference. Let's get out to the West. Now, we have the Grizzlies snatching up game 1 against Memphis in impressive fashion. Yes, they had no Donovan Mitchell. I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm still going to take the Utah Jazz. I'm still going to take the Utah Jazz, and I think the Utah Jazz is going to get it done in 7 games. I think Utah ultimately defensively is just too stout. I think Dylan Brooks had such a great game one. I don't know if he can continuously repeat that kind of level of performance. Ja Morant is amazing. He's an amazing young player. He really is. But I don't know if the counterparts, the others on the Grizzlies, can continue to repeat that level of performance. And I think Donovan Mitchell is going to come in for. He may not play the entire series. Of course, not going to play the entire series. But he's going to come in for a couple of those games. And he may take a game to get his feet wet because he haven't played in a while. But Spider Mitchell is ready for playoffs, man. He about that come playoff time. Even without I do think Jazz is so stout defensively. They kind of remind me without Spider. They have more scorers than those Derrick Rose Chicago-led teams, but they kind of remind me of that. Kind of sort of remind me. It's something that eerily similar. But they have more scoring outside of their main guy Spider than those Chicago teams had. So I'm going to stick with Utah. I say Utah wins in 7. Then we got the Lakers and Phoenix. Phoenix has already exceeded expectations. The fact that they were the number 2 seed, I expected this to be a first-round series, but the other way around, with the Lakers being the number 2 seed, Phoenix being the number 7 seed, but no. And the Lakers, much like Brooklyn, yes, they dropped game 1. Don't panic. I think Lakers still win ultimately in 6 games. And I say that because, like Brooklyn, I think the Lakers, their 2 main guys are coming back from injuries. And they're going to have this. It is going to be a filling out process in this first round. I genuinely believe that. I think the first round is going to be a filling out process for them as well. And they're going to figure it out. Because at the end of the day, their two best can, I don't put it like this. Maybe they can't do it in the physical states they're in for an entire season. But for an entire series, their 2 best can be better than the 2 best on Phoenix. When I look at a series, a lot of times, even when the series looks even matched on paper, the first thing I ask is who's the best player in the series, period. So what you saw in game 1 is LeBron James was not the best player on the floor. And when you look at it on paper, the Lakers are supposed to have the first best player in the series and the number 2 best player in the series. Whether AD first, then LeBron second, or vice versa. That's what you go in thinking. And I think eventually it's going to come to that where AD and LeBron's going to be the 2 best players in the series. And that what eventually is what's going to win out for him. Shout out to Devin Booker. I think he's great. But I don't think he's better than either Anthony Davis or LeBron James. And I think that he and Chris Paul and DeAndre Ayton, I don't know if they can consistently be better than those 2 guys 3 more times in the next 6 games. I just don't see that. Now, in the next series, we have the Clippers against the Dallas Mavericks. Now, Dallas Mavericks pushed them to 6 games, if I remember correctly. Last year, 5-6 games. And Luka was a problem last year. Luka was a problem for him already in game 1 this year. And what I see happening, I'm seeing the same game plan by the Clippers. And I'm putting this on Ty Lue. And I'm putting this on Ty Lue for this reason. Let me give you this breakdown right here. People like myself took the Clippers to win the series because you look at how many great wing defenders that they have. With, of course, Paul George, who has to stop choking in the playoffs. It's the first round, my nigga. It ain't even the finals yet. But anyway, Paul George, Morris, you know how great Kawhi could be. You see those kind of wing defenders, and do you have a guy like Luka in that size range, you're thinking, okay, they can neutralize Luka, make him really work, if not completely shut him down. Because Kawhi, we know, will shut someone like Luka down. Now, I don't think it's a situation of Kawhi not being the Kawhi we know. What I see is the Clippers have a defense where they can guard 5 out, so they're used to switching out. And this is what happened last year, because I paid attention to this last year. And basically, the offense is Luka, high screen and roll. The offense is Luka, high screen and roll. And they just run him through a million screens until he gets a mismatch. It's very similar to what the Lakers do crunch time with LeBron. It's just that the Mavericks do that with Luka the entire fucking game. Spread the floor, Luka with shooters, screen and roll, screen and roll, screen and roll until he gets one mismatch he likes and then he goes. And that's what happens over and over and over. When they get switched out in the Zubats, because the Clippers switch everything. When Zubats on him, he bangs a 3 in the face. Right in his face, right in his mug. Because Zubats ain't going to step out. When one of the guards, the Patrick Beverly, Jackson. Remember, last year, that game when he won, Kawhi was guarding him. They did a screen and roll to get Kawhi off him. They got Jackson off him. Just shoots right over the top. Those little guards, he'll shoot right over the top or put him in the paint like he did Beverly. You're too fucking small. I want to see what adjustments, because playoffs are about adjustments. What adjustments are they going to make? Are they going to stop finally switching everything? Are they finally going to blitz those and trap those pick and rolls? Stop letting them just have free reign. I mean, what are they finally going to do? I mean, because what the Mavericks are doing offensively is negating the fact that you have these great wing defenders. Because he's rarely ever going up against Kawhi, PG, or Morris. Very rarely. Very rarely last year, and every time you saw him with Kawhi guarding him last year, they did a simple little screen to get Kawhi off of him. They got somebody else that he was more comfortable. And I saw the same shit happen in game 1. Ty Lue, what the fuck are you going to do about it? This is a very simple thing to fix. Let's see what you do about it. Clippers in 6. Ty Lue, don't let me down. Now, the last series I have, we have the Portland Trailblazers versus the Denver Nuggets. Now, this would be a much better series if Jamal Murray did not unfortunately blow his ACL. It is so difficult. Let me not get off subject. It is so difficult in today's NBA to really build your team via the draft. Because you're drafting kids. Let's just call it what it is. And when I look at the Denver Nuggets, I mean, before I even go to the last team we saw build a championship squad through the draft were the Golden State Warriors. That's it. That's the last team we've seen in a long time. In a long fucking time, build the team through the draft. Before that was the San Antonio Spurs. Like, seriously, it's not an easy thing to do in today's NBA because you're drafting kids. You're drafting kids. It's a very, very difficult thing to do. And I say all that to say this. Everybody a few years ago was high on Minnesota because you had 2 former number 1 picks on the same squad, and they was only like a year or 2 apart from each other. And they both, at least on paper, turned out to be good players. But you couldn't win. And when I look at what Denver has built, and the fact that there were no mega trades. I mean, they did rob Orlando for Aaron Gordon. That was robbery. I know Portland is looking at that like, that motherfucker should be over here. We're gonna give you this work because of that. They built all that through the draft. Murray through the draft. Joker draft. Michael Porter Jr. falling down to them draft. And I commend them for that. When Jamal Murray is healthy next season, I think they have a team that can really compete for a championship because I think I told you I would go into a series and I say who's the best player in the series. The best player in the series is Damian Lillard. But at playoff time, if Jamal Murray was there, that would be a real question. I wouldn't know. It will basically, okay, let's see. I know who has a better supporting cast. Denver. But I think the Jamal Murray not being there is going to create a void where it's going to help Michael Porter Jr. grow. He's going to grow to a crazy level during this first round series. But do I think he can go gun to gun with Damian Lillard? Hell fucking no. Not now. I think I think he's a future MVP. But not now. He can't go gun to gun with no fucking Damian Lillard. Not happening. And what we saw in game 1, Lillard's able to do what he want to do. You know what I'm saying? As long as he's getting some help from the others, you saw my boy Melo Time coming off the bench. As long as he's getting some help from the others, this not going 7 games. I'm going to give Denver respect because I think they're a damn good roster. And the fact that, Portland doesn't play defense. So I'll say Portland in 6. Portland in 6. That's my take. See me in the likes, hit the subscribe. It's your boy Urban Sports Guru. Hit me in the comments. Let me know what you think. I'm out. Salute.